Hi everyone, it's Aussie and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be making the cutest, most aesthetic spring earrings and they'll be perfect for the season. So if you've been wanting to make your own earrings, this tutorial is perfect. I'm actually batching these for an upcoming market for my jewelry business, so I'll be taking you through my entire process with me. And of course, if you want to see more behind the scenes, my Instagram, Aussie's Jewelry, is always linked below. Additionally, I'm not going to go super in-depth with supplies this video because I have covered supplies in some of my previous tutorials, but everything that I'm using is linked in my Amazon storefront, which is also linked in the description of today's video. And without further ado, let's go. First, I'm going to consult my Pinterest board for inspiration. This is my springtime Pinterest board and I feel like it fits these earrings perfectly. It's lots of pastels, lots of soft colors, lots of pink and green and yellow and blue, very breezy, very fresh and bright. So I'm definitely going to consider this soft aesthetic while making the earrings, but I also want to include fairy core. I love the idea of it being springtime and we're all in our feminine energy and we're all like pixie hollow core, the different types of fairies. We're feeling ethereal, we're in our divine feminine energy, we're a garden fairy, we're enjoying nature. So I like this vibe as well for the earrings. First, we're going to start by picking out the beads, and I am going to make a bead soup this time like I've done in a couple of my tutorials. So we're looking for bright, springy, pastel colors, lots of greens and pinks and blues. I feel like all of the little leaves and all of these little stars are so perfect in this container. So I'm just going to start by picking out a couple of each, always picking in pairs of 2 for 2 earrings, and I'm just going to start making my bead soup. This bead soup was actually the most recent bead soup that I posted on my channel, and you guys had such cute names for it, like Vintage Pastel, Mystical Meadows, Fairy Garden, and Springtime Flowers. I mean, all of those ideas are so cute. Oh my gosh. So if you also want to be a part of naming cute bead soups, definitely subscribe and join our cozy little community. Now I'm just showing a couple of my super cute little flower beads as I put them into the bead soup. I'm trying to grab a little bit of every single color. And I want to talk a little bit about batching and preparations for markets in general. So I briefly touched on batching in my most recent video, my small business Q&A, in the pricing section of that video. But to break it down a little bit more, something that I love to do as a small business owner, both for markets and just in general, is to batch items, because then I can make a bunch of keychains or a bunch of earrings or a bunch of phone charms at the same time. And while that might take longer than doing them individually, at the end of say an hour, I have 20 finished instead of just 1 finished in 10 minutes. And then I'm able to price the items lower, because basically for that hour of work, if I sell 20 keychains, then my hourly pay is the total of all of the keychains and not just one, if that makes any sense. So this video is an example of batching itself. I'm batching a bunch of earrings all together with the springy and the fairy theme, and certain earrings will be more expensive than others in this batch, but it's just really convenient for big market to make a bunch all at once and then just have all my earrings done for the upcoming market. Ta-da! Here is the super cute bead soup. I love the little button earrings. I feel like they're very fairy core, and now we're going to put the design together. Now for the design, what I love to do when I batch earrings is literally just cover my entire bead board with a bunch of different earrings and then go through all of the steps together for all of the earrings. So once I'm done designing all of them, I'll wire all of them and then I'll put them all together so they're all done at the same time. Right now, I'm just having fun. I love to be creative and free in the design process and just play around. I'll change a lot of designs as I go through, and I'll even change designs all the way at the very end when I'm putting everything together. So it's a very creative process. To walk you guys through how I design my earrings, typically my most simple earrings are only 2 beads each. So for example, the ones on the far right are just that cute little flower bead and then a green leaf under them. This is kind of the baseline that I work off of for earrings, and it's a good starting point, and I will go over how to put them together later. Now my next tip is that earrings do not have to be identical. They don't have to be completely symmetrical. They can be sisters instead of twins, but when you do make them different on each side of the ear, I would suggest balancing colors. So for example, on the far top left, I have this blue and white color scheme, and so I have blue on top and then white on bottom on the right earring, and then I have white on top and blue on bottom on the left earring. This still makes the set feel cohesive even though each ear is different, and this can also apply to many other jewelry items. I've talked about color schemes in my bracelet tutorial and in my keychain tutorial. And this applies to more layered, complex earrings, which I think are absolutely gorgeous, and I will be making a couple sets that are more detailed and have more layers. I don't do super cluster earrings with a ton of of beads just because with my audience, I know my audience through markets and they don't really like to spend that much on earrings, which I totally understand. So I tend to make more simple earrings so that I can still keep the price pretty low. I gotta be a good businesswoman, you know? I gotta know my audience. If you guys do want a super complex earring tutorial, let me know, but mainly in this batch, it's either just 2 beads or 2 beads with a single extra strand, so nothing too complicated in this one. Those bee beads were so super cute and they match the spring theme so well, and I'm just deciding whether to use stars or little leaves under them, and I decided to go with the stars because they match the colors so perfectly. Then I used those little green leaves under these super cute green flowers, and ta-da! That is all of my designs for all of my earrings. I'm going to keep the remaining of the bead soup out as backup beads while I'm wiring and going through the rest of the process. Now we're wiring the design, so I'm just gonna get a couple things ready. First, I'm gonna pull out the earring hooks. And we're gonna grab our jump rings. For the button beads, we're gonna use the size 3, and for the larger buttons, we might need to use the size 4 jump rings, but we'll see. So first, for getting everything on wire, I'm gonna start with the buttons and the items that go on jump rings, just to get them out of the way. As you can see, the buttons are super straightforward. You just slide the jump ring through one of the holes in the buttons, and you make sure there's a little bit of wiggle room so that you can attach another wire's loop to it. Ta-da! All of the buttons are on jump rings now. Now we're gonna go ahead and actually put our regular beads onto wire. Starting with these little flower ones, I like to actually put an extra tiny little spacer bead right before the loop in the wire. This is just because I like how it looks. This right here is how the flower looks without the extra spacer bead, and I just feel like the wire is super far in the flower. So I like to add that tiny spacer bead to make it feel more full. Another tip that I have for you guys is specifically with difficult beads like this, like a butterfly bead. The side with the longer wings is really difficult to use the one-step looper on because it doesn't leave a lot of space there, so I always just loop the harder side first. Then I loop the other side, and I do leave extra space on the wire. Specifically with these, you want a little bit of wiggle room so that it's not super tight. As you can see here, I can wiggle the bead a little bit on the wire, and that's good for these glass butterfly beads because they're a little bit more fragile, so they have more flexibility while they're being worn to move around a little bit without breaking. And this also goes for every glass bead. That's just a good rule of thumb to follow, especially when you have one that's kind of weirdly shaped like that. This little pink flower and little green leaf is so cute. And those were the last few beads that needed looped wires, so now we're gonna go ahead and get the beads that need the sphere end wires. These little wires right here. The beads that are gonna use these are gonna be, for example, the stars that are at the bottom half of the earring, or the tiny little crystal beads that are at the bottom half of the earring, but ones that are hanging on the bottom because the sphere end is a lot more clean than a looped end. Now a surprise visit from my cat Goose. Oh my gosh, he's so cute. Another little tip that I want to give you guys is when this sort of thing happens where you use the one-step looper and the loop is way too close to your bead, you can do what I'm doing right here and use your pliers to kind of pull out the loop a little bit more until it has enough space to close out the loop after the end of the bead, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. So that's what I do with this little star bead here, and it does end up being a really tiny skinny loop because I had to pull it back so much, but it is actually a functioning loop now where the end of the wire isn't over the bead. All right, that is it for wired items, and now we're gonna move on to all of my little leaves. We are going to use jump rings for the leaves, and I don't know why I didn't group this in with the buttons. Honestly, I could have done the buttons and the leaves at the same time, but that's okay. These leaves sometimes give me some trouble because they're very thick, high quality check glass beads. So sometimes I struggle and I have to pull out the jump ring like this, as you can see right here, in order to reclose it, and that's usually how I get these stubborn leaves onto jump rings. Now, in general, best jewelry practice is to not pull jump rings out like this outward, which I've already taught y'all in previous videos. But I make an exception specifically for these leaves because there's really no other way that I've found aside from obviously using a straight wire through the leaves works fine. But with these curved jump rings, I have to get a little creative. I just wanted to go over that in case anybody else is struggling with these leaves. I think with thinner jump rings, it wouldn't be that much of an issue. But if you have the same jump ring set that I have and have had similar problems with similar beads, I just wanted to go over that super quick. Ta-da! All of our wiring is done. All of our buttons and our leaves are on jump rings. Now I'm just gonna take my little earring hooks and place them above every earring design. This really helps with the clarity of knowing exactly where each design starts and ends, and it helps everything be laid out super clearly before we start putting it all together. Now it's super clear where every earring is laying on this design board. Now let's get started on putting it all together. Okay, so for every single earring, we're gonna start with the earring hook itself. We're gonna open that up and then slide the first earring on. If you followed any of my other tutorials, earrings are going to seem very easy to you after everything that we do for other jewelry pieces. Especially if you don't add any cluster beads and just stick to the 2 basic beads, it's super, super easy. Now we have that beautiful flower bead dangling. It's got its little loop on the end, and we're just gonna go ahead and open up the leaves loop and then connect the 2. It's literally as simple as that. Now we have our first super cute, springy, nature themed earring. I'm gonna go ahead and connect all of the earrings that are that simple, just 2 bead style, such as all the other flower and leaf beads, and just all of them with the simple 2 bead structure. This is why I always batch earrings, even with ones that are more complex or have more beads. They're just so simple to make. It's so great to batch them. Another tip that I have for you guys applies to all earrings, especially ones with beads that have a front side and a back side. Basically, you always want the design to hang down from the earring hook so that it is facing the viewer when the earring is being worn. So in particular with my button beads that have a front and a back side, I want to make sure that these buttons are hanging facing whoever is looking at the earring from the front. We don't want the button to be sideways where we're seeing the side of it, or backwards where we're seeing the back of it. And it naturally hangs sideways, as you can see here, if we just use its normal jump rings. So how do we fix this? Well, we're actually going to take the loop at the bottom of the earring hook and we're going to twist it. Now the directions will become more intuitive the more you do it, but we're going to make this loop perpendicular to the hook instead of parallel to the hook. Now with that loop perpendicular, the jump ring on the button actually hangs parallel, which means that it's facing forward, facing towards our viewer. The direction you need to twist the loop may vary depending on the beads, but this is just something to keep in mind as you're making earrings. It's always a good rule of thumb to make sure that all of the beads are facing forward, facing towards the viewer who is looking at the earrings straight on. Now I'm gonna take these 4 designs and make them more complex earrings, so I'm gonna show you how to do that with just a really simple chain. Okay, first we have this purple and white set right here. Both sides already have 3 beads hanging down, but I want to add an extra little purple leaf bead to this side. So we're gonna take some dainty silver chain. These are just some old necklace strands that I like to use because the chain is really thin and dainty compared to my spool of chain. Next we're gonna measure how low we want the bead to hang from the top of the earring, and I definitely just eyeball it. I literally just put the chain up to the top of the earring and then like roughly cut off the amount that I think would look good. This isn't an exact science for me, but you can always cut it shorter if you don't like the initial length. Now, as you can see, I'm just attaching that chain to the very top of the earring. I'm looking at roughly where that leaf is going to fall on the earring, and it looks good, so I went ahead and attached it just to the loop at the base of the earring hook. Super simple, super easy stuff. You can add lots more chains with lots more beads for that layered cluster earring look, but I'm just gonna keep mine pretty simple, and now I'm gonna do the rest of them. Ta-da! That is all of the designs completely finished. I really love how they all turned out super springy, super nature-y. The buttons are also so perfect for fairy core, like little found trinkets. I can't wait to bring these to market, and I do need to name them all and put them all on their little backing cards. I am gonna go ahead and show y'all how I do that. I just get these little brown backing cards off of Amazon. For me, these ones are the perfect length to write a little description of the earrings on. I pop out the top, and then I decide to name these blue and white ones Water Fairy, which I just think is so cute and so perfect. I always like to write the price on literally every single tag that I make for my items, and I would suggest that for you as well if you do sell at in-person markets. It reduces any friction because the customer immediately knows the price and they don't have to ask you about it. Now we're gonna finally break out those earring backs and we're gonna put them on the back, and this just keeps them super secure on that backing card so that the earrings don't like slip out when the customer picks up the item. And that comes from personal experience because I used to not use earring backs, I don't know why, and they would be falling all over my table. Ta-da! That is it for today's springy earring tutorial. If you enjoyed this this video, please leave a like, comment down below if this was helpful, and subscribe for more jewelry tutorials and small business content. If you want to keep in touch, my Instagram is at Aussie's Jewelry and my shop is aussiesjewelry.bigcartel.com. Alright, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!